Steal this government trick for yourself. If you're an employee, by the time you get paid, there's a high chance you have already spent a chunk of your pay. Your tax is going to be taken and paid straight to the government. So is your ACC expense to cover off if you have an injury or an accident. Then perhaps your KiwiSaver or superannuation savings schemes, and then even your student loan if you're paying that. That's going to leave you with the net amount. From there, many people start to allocate money towards everyday living costs and repaying loans. Add in the cost of living pressure, and before we know it, we are scrambling to our next payday. There's no room for investing, saving, or putting aside for our future. Now, I used to live like this until I started to really think about what the government was doing to us, why the banks do this too, and then what the big corporates are doing as well. They all take from our hard-earned before we even have a chance to spend it elsewhere, and most of the time it's automated by them, i.e. your employer withholds your taxes, KiwiSaver and ACC, to pass it to the government. The bank takes your mortgage the week that you get paid, often on the same day via direct debit. The big corporations use direct debit to save them from waiting for you to pay them. So why don't we use this trick ourselves? This is where automation comes in. Before we even spend some of our money, why not automate it and direct it towards our goals, i.e. our retirement or paying down debt faster? This is a subtle change in practice that can make a big difference, because you go from saving what is left over to living on what is left over after you save or invest. For me, I started to automate the decrease in my credit card balance first, clear some of that as soon as I got paid. Once that was done, I automated a percentage of my income into a savings account. Today, it all looks a little bit different, but every week I still have an automatic payment set up, and they are investing in shares, increasing my KiwiSaver balance via voluntary payments. And yes, I know some of you will disagree with this, but this is my journey. Increasing my crypto holdings. My risk appetite has increased once I tidied my shit up. Increasing my ETF fund holdings, increasing cash reserves for options that come up later on. I can have the craziest weeks and not forget to invest or provide for my future goals because it's all set up automatically. Of course, this doesn't mean anything if we dip into it, but it's a great habit to create before you start making more money. I was like that once, where I would store and then I would touch it, and round it would go, and I would never really get ahead with my savings or my investments. To fix this, you have to change the person you are in order to break the cycle. We've spoken about that many times before, but this is a good example of it. To change who you are, start by automating that money to go out straight away, and then you have to learn to live off of the money that's left over. Now, for those of you who are struggling to save, I heard something cool recently. Why don't you start with what you can save, then increase it by 1% each pay run. $100 becomes $101, the next time $102, and then $103, and so on, and it keeps compounding. As you increase, you are learning to live on $1 less each cycle, or what you have left over. You may then be able to play with that percentage as well. Remember that habits are what matter most. To do all of this, first you need to be aware of what you have coming in and then what is going out. This shows what is left over, but chances are you're living based on the what's left over. So save, invest first, and then learn to live off of what's left over. And if you don't like it, the hard pill to swallow is that you need to learn to increase your income. I know everyone's scared to talk about that in New Zealand, but it's okay to do, to focus on increasing your income. It's the best skill that you can learn. You are your most valuable asset, and you will increase your earning ability and then be able to invest and save even more. So don't neglect this, because as much as you don't want this to be the answer, it's a you thing. You've got to want to do it. So once you go looking for it, and it being more money, you'll realize how much of it is there and how long it has been there and you didn't realize. But because you're now looking for it, you'll see that there's so much money there for you to earn. But that's a new chapter, and you have to write it yourself. For now, start by automating what you either first A, find most important, or B, find most worrying, and then you can get it out of your head. If you're saving for your first home as an example, the focus will be on putting cash aside for that deposit. If you worry about late payment fees on bills, then automate your payments towards those bills to stay ahead so that you don't get behind. Less worry equals less mental rent spent. You want to automate all this so that you don't have to think about it. Then you can focus that thinking time into growing your income. You've got to think. Because if you're anything like me, you've got enough to think about already, so we want to make finances simpler. Don't forget, these things can change over time as you prioritize change, and that's all good. Just start by getting automated. Now I'm going to leave my simple money tracking spreadsheet below that I use to go from credit card cowboy to on paper millionaire. If you want more lessons like this one, check out prior videos in my channel or search for the Keep the Change podcast, which has nearly 1.5 million downloads.